Now, final countdown. I'm going to start this one off on the perspective of RAISY. Takes away the heavy armor of the spawn. Makes his way over to the railgun. Doesn't want to immediately go for a fight. And BaSe has delayed Mega. Massively so. But I think that RAISY is aware of this. He knows that there's around 10 seconds between the items. Might not have exact timing, but I think that BaSe looping back around gave him all the information that he needed. And that makes this initial fight so important. BaSe is actually going to survive. That health bubble is going to keep him alive. And now you can see that offset really starting to play into his hands. myztro RAISY going through the teleporter at just the wrong moment. Eats a direct rocket. At least now he has exact timing on both of the items. RAISY has given up 2 frags so far, but did manage to do a significant amount of damage. So he has stopped BaSe from establishing full control of the entire map, and he knows exactly when these items are going to spawn. And oh my god, BaSe shouldn't have gone for that final peek. I think that BaSe felt like he just did so much damage that he should go to clean it up and to finish off his opponent. But RAISY, with a flame strike, a mile away from down below into the railgun, somehow finding a frag. BaSe was absolutely not ready for that. Good play from BaSe there, though. He knew that RAISY was still pretty weak after that previous engagement, and wow! The LG. The LG. We've seen it in the previous series as well. Just how powerful that weapon can be in BaSe's hands. And he is using it to extreme effect against RAISY. Oh no, actually getting pushed over the item. No! Almost again. RAISY actually boosting him through, getting him onto the Mega straight away. Bit of an unfortunate rocket placed by the myztro player. He really had an opportunity to get the frag right there, but bit of an unfortunate series of events right there. Now BaSe is still in it. Good amount of shotgun damage as well. The Russian is poised to take away the heavy, finds himself a railgun angle too. And isn't even gonna go for the Mega right off the bat. Reads his opponent perfectly, realizes that RAISY is just gonna go for the rockets, that this is a key weapon in his arsenal. And so he just pushes out. Applies some pressure around the center of the map. And makes RAISY really work for it. Whoa, interesting trade right there. The bull rush getting cut a little short. I think BaSe was definitely expecting to get a clean frag right there. Or at least not a trade.
Either way, a lead of 5 is still nothing to slouch at, as of course, you know, you say that and RAISY instantly comes in with, you know, a wonderful frag. 4 frag difference now. Wonderful LG. Kind of just needs the rail to set himself up, but BaSe is back there behind that rail. Looks like he's gonna try to kill BaSe and get rail all in one fell swoop as BaSe is caught out back here and will go down as a result. RAISY is going to be able to swing around. Not going to be able to grab that heavy too low after that frag, but should be in a good position to contest the Mega here.
BaSe's scale is also such a joy to watch. Really, he's got the movement nailed down. And as I say it, he just kind of runs himself into a wall. So Caster's Curse coming into play once again. But it is, generally speaking, really nice to see someone this good at scale. I mean, BaSe actually getting caught in a pretty bad position right there. Somehow still setting himself on fire by wandering into the flames, and then that did just enough damage to make him railable.
Wonderful play from RAISY right there. You know, doing a great job at what's it? It's not rodeo. Is it?
The Ole, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bullfighting.
Yes.
Nice little Ole comes out and completely sidesteps it, and then just a super shotgun in the back. Good play by RAISY indeed, and just like that, It's all tied up. And you just know that there is a lesser man than RAISY who, after, you know, starting off with a pretty sizable frag deficit, I think he was, what, like 5 frags behind BaSe at one point? But he stuck to his guns, played the game that he knew would work out in the end, and now he's 1 frag in the lead. Still, he has to be careful, right? We know that RAISY is not the biggest fan of Scalebearer, doesn't enjoy playing him all that much. I think that might be working out nicely in BaSe's favor, but this is tricky. Nope, can't round the corner tightly enough, so the super shotgun will have to clean it up, but BaSe, once more, all tied up. Now, last time, these two players went up against each other. RAISY got a 3-0 victory. BaSe most definitely does not want to see a repeat of that. Now, it was pretty close last time as well. A few games that came down to just 1 or 2 frags, so looks like we're in for another close series.
The way that RAISY, you know, pushes spawns is really kind of accelerates his X factor here, that not only, you know, you're losing a frag, but a lot of the times, you know, it's expected that you lose a frag and then take a rail. But RAISY's ability to chain 2, 3, 4 of these kills together, like we saw against CNZ, you know, when he goes to tie it up, you know, on Veil, even though he did lose it, you know, he gained like 3, 4 frags and tied it up in the blink of an eye. It's the sort of thing where RAISY's just so good at converting multiple frags again and again and again, that if you're BaSe, basically, you have to be extra careful to like not give it up, but also have enough of a lead that if you do, you're only kind of screwed, you know?
Yeah. Now, earlier I said that BaSe's movement with Scalebearer has been phenomenal, and I stand by that, but his use of the bull rush, it's been iffy at best. So many missed opportunities. It feels like he rarely ever connects with the bull rush, and more often than not, it ends up putting himself in a bad situation that RAISY can punish him off of. I mean, that's just not really working out the way that it should for BaSe. His LG, spectacular, doing a lot of damage in these engagements, but the bull rush often feels like it's been hurting him more than it's helped. This should be another frag for the Russian, indeed. The super shotgun, quite a bit of distance, but he didn't need more than 1 or 2 pellets to connect. So once again, all tied up. This is a very close series. I think this is some of the most back and forth we've seen all day. That bull rush will finally connect and do good damage, but again, it nearly went wrong. BaSe kind of lost track of RAISY after connecting with the charge, and then a little bit of a fumble on just keeping track of his opponent, and RAISY could have converted that into a frag, but luckily, the super shotgun worked out in favor of BaSe, and he secured the kill. But I'm not convinced by the use of the bull rush at all.
Yeah, 1 frag is not in a position you want to be in against RAISY, especially like tied it up. Like we saw the way that, you know, CNZ played, you know, the last bit of his match, where, you know, in this position, he was ahead by 2, 3 frags, and, you know, RAISY was able to catch him, yes, but he was able to slow it down enough that he was able to get away just by the skin of his teeth. And I'm not sure if BaSe is going to be able to do that. You know, it's the sort of thing where he doesn't have all that, basically, the frag lead, so he really needs to either try to cheese out a kill, which, you know, Scalebearer exceptionally good at, or a trade, which, you know, prevents him from going into the gutter, per se. Especially with the Mega up there, that is going to be favorable for him. But he really needs to, you know, convert, and more than just get a frag that isn't refraggable. You know, get it in a position where RAISY can't just press W off spawn and kill you once or twice, you know, because that's really not a position you really can be in against, you know, RAISY of all people. Wow.
I appreciate the guts, the balls on BaSe to go for that rocket jump. You knew he just wanted to jump across so badly, but he was at 85 points of health, so he was railable, probably wouldn't have survived it. So he went for a horizontal rocket jump, give himself a speed boost right onto the item, but somehow RAISY found a flame strike to nail him down, and these are 2 excellent rails from BaSe. Both players are low. But I don't think BaSe wants to take that fight. He knows that when it comes down to landing rails on one another, he is the larger target. And this is basically the way that the house always wins, right? Even if BaSe is comfortable and confident in his aim, he knows that this is stacked slightly against him, 55 to 45% chance, and he knows that he can't afford to just go for that at this stage. So instead, we have now entered overtime. I think this is the first time we've seen sudden death on stream today.
Our first map went to overtime. Also with RAISY, actually.
Right.
However,
that is true. What was that, BaSe? What was that? Just bull rushing straight into the pillar.
RAISY sliding away there, making sure that he has his ability up. That Death Knight, Flame Strike is a lot of damage there. Oh, he really wants to have up. The second upset though for RAISY on Veil is going to come through. RAISY showing some sort of a kryptonite here, arguably on this map. But is it a one-off, or will we see the 2-0 from BaSe?
I don't know. RAISY doing 1,000 points of damage more than his opponent, and yet BaSe ended up taking it home by the skin of his teeth. I think it was just a little bit of an unlucky rocket for RAISY at the very end right there. He dodged right on top of it, and the rocket landed so beautifully under his feet that it bounced him straight up. And in doing so, he was basically, an immobile target in a perfectly predictable arch. BaSe, of course, is going to be able to capitalize off it like none other. Knows exactly what he has to do. RAISY, he knows that if he drops down, he's done for. He's outstacked. The only thing he can do is go up the bounce pad, hope that BaSe misses the shot and that he finds maybe a rail of his own, then get onto the heavy instead. But BaSe didn't blink. The LG stuck to his opponent, and that makes it so that the Russian is actually getting a one-map lead already. So we're not getting a do-over of the last match that these two players played, which was in the final stage of the Quake Pro League when RAISY won all 3 maps in their series. So BaSe actually poised to take this one home 2-0. Solid plays from BaSe. I'm looking at his match record so far, has yet to lose a single map. Took down Dramis 2-0, and then he took down Nosra 2-0 as well. So BaSe got a lot of momentum behind him right now, and let's see if RAISY can stem the tide and stop this Hulk, this hunking bull rush god. Although the bull rushes really weren't all that impressive, but still, very different map 2 coming up, where we're getting Strog versus Anarchy.
Yeah, I honestly, the BaSe Anarchy is super strong. He plays it super positionally well. RAISY making wise to ban that Nyx, but BaSe is able to play that super, that super flaky play style to prevent himself from, getting caught out, from really committing to something really bad. But even if he does have that Anarchy injection up available for him, which is obviously super important. However, RAISY with the Peeker able to deal, loads of extra damage or denial, which is very, very important. And that crouch slide, of course, allowing him to move very, very fast. Anarchy, once he gets going, can get really consistently around that 600 units a second. But honestly, I think Peeker can definitely keep up, especially when we're dealing with somebody like RAISY's Peeker,
RAISY does have an impressive Peeker, it has to be said. Now, of course, we are loading into this one. BaSe, Molten Falls, Anarchy, name a more iconic trio. Let's see what RAISY can do. Can he bring it back? We've seen him do much more difficult things than this, right? Oh. Hang on. Looks like we probably are going to go back to lobby. I think we've had a bit of a connection issue. BaSe lagging out, leaving the match, perhaps on the wrong server. I don't know. We're about to find out, but there seems to be a technical issue before we can continue. But as I was saying, BaSe playing Anarchy on Molten, it's his comfort zone. He even did so earlier in one of his previous matches as well, and clearly he wants to continue that against RAISY as well. But yeah, like you mentioned yourself, RAISY is a very creative player, and Peeker is, of course, an ability that requires a lot of creativity to use well. So that could be a bit of a tricky matchup. Let's see what RAISY can do, and if he can bring it back. We've seen him do far greater things than that. Still remember, for example, him coming from lower brackets, having to win 2 best-of-3s or best-of-5s, I think it even was, against Rafa in the grand finals of the ESL tournament in Italy way back when, and he managed to make it happen, and that's how he earned himself the Godslayer title. So RAISY absolutely doesn't flinch even when fighting from behind, even getting into this invitational, right? RAISY kind of forgot to play his first match, so he immediately forfeited his upper bracket shot, dropped down into the lowers, and still made it all the way into the grand finals, still qualified for this tournament today.
He did go on an absolute tear through the lower bracket. If I pull it up real quick, BaSe appears to have fully crashed. So we will be back on the road in just 1 second.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, yes, RAISY's lower bracket tear included he beat Yup, Stone, Buckster, Peltz, Effortless, and Pasita to take the second qualifying slot. Yeah. It was very, very impressive.
Indeed. But that is, of course, just about the thing that you can expect from RAISY, right? Don't forget, this is the man who made it all the way to the grand finals of the QuakeCon, the Quake World Championships, serving as the conclusion to the Quake Pro League's second season, where he did end up losing against his own teammate, myztro Wenger, and RAISY had a pretty tremendous tear back then as well, right? So as we wait to load back into it, let us take another quick look and see how exactly that played out for RAISY. He beat quickly Cygip, Dramas, Kilson, Cypher, Rafa, and then ultimately faced a Wenger in the grand finals. So just look at the list of people that RAISY has beaten not all that long ago, and you know that you have a top caliber player on your hands right now. So if anyone can turn this around against BaSe, it's absolutely RAISY. But of course, BaSe himself is a Russian powerhouse, a defensive god. Once he gets the lead, it's borderline impossible to wrestle it back out of his clutch. So let's see if BaSe, once he reconnects, has a bit of technical problems going on, it seems, but once he reconnects, we're going to find out how this second map will pan out.
Definitely, definitely. BaSe has got the game back up, so he is on his way back in now, just rejoining the party. So we will get on the road second.
Indeed. BaSe has rejoined us in the lobby. We're starting off the countdown right now, so in around 20 seconds we will be live with this series. Now, guys, don't forget, I don't know, do we have predictions?
We're doing full series predictions.
Oh, we're doing full series predictions. Okay. RAISY versus BaSe. Who takes the set? Indeed. Uh-oh. Looks like the BaSe doubters currently in shambles. There's a lot of points to be made. 1k points have been placed on BaSe. So if he takes this now in a 2-0 fashion, then the channel point economy is probably going to take a bit of a hit. A lot of people are going to walk away very wealthy, while others probably going to be facing bankruptcy after this series. And indeed, it seems like BaSe managed to load in, no problems this time around. So we should be kicking this off in just a moment. Watching two of the best players, not just in Europe, but in the entire world, go face-to-face as part of the Dragonborn Esports Invitational with $500 on the line as part of the prize pool. So let's see who will be taking away the lion's share of that, as we are starting off the series this time around on BaSe's point of view, running Anarchy and immediately going for the Railgun and the Heavy. BaSe making his way onto the LG as well. He's got to be careful because he knows that RAISY is the kind of player to set a trap around those parts of the map. Don't want to run around the corner hoping to get an LG and then be faced with a rocket while you yourself don't even have that weapon to begin with. So BaSe, very careful, very calculated right now. There's around 5 seconds between these items. Not enough for one player to secure both of them just yet. But it's the start of something. Those little offsets, if you add another few seconds here, another few seconds there, before you know it, there's absolutely is a gap that will allow one player to just clean them both up and establish control. BaSe hasn't even made an attempt to get himself a rocket. He's just slow playing this like none other. I think he heard that rocket over at rail. This is his chance, and he knows it too. He realizes that they've basically traded the final weapon that they still need. RAISY didn't have railgun, BaSe didn't have rockets, and they will exchange them. That was a bit careless by RAISY. Caught off guard, to say the least, going up that center bounce pad. I don't know exactly what RAISY was thinking right there. Maybe he was expecting BaSe to just keep control of the rockets. Oh no, this is again so risky from RAISY, just blindly jumping into the room. That could have ended so much worse for the myztro player than it did. BaSe had a really solid opportunity to get a frag right there. But RAISY managed to escape. Oh, sneaky. That's a nice little drop. Just clutching, hugging the corner and the wall. Giving away as little information on his position until he's basically on top of BaSe with the rockets, and BaSe was still waiting with the wrong weapon out to take that fight.
Juice it up, baby.
Now Heavy will be going towards BaSe. RAISY once again jumping in, but much more controlled this time. Does end up being a trade. That was a formidable amount of damage that BaSe somehow manifested out of nowhere with a rocket launcher from below. Don't think RAISY was expecting that much incoming fire.
Absolutely. BaSe doing a super good job at only taking those engagements, you know, doing a really good job at only taking engagements he views as truly safe. You know, which is one of the more, you know, remarkable and noticeable things about his playstyle. But RAISY does a super good job at kind of forcing ones that are really effective for him too. So it's kind of a super back and forth where, you know, not only is that dependent upon a player deciding whether an engagement is smart, but also dependent upon, you know, somebody deciding whether it's worth it or not to, you know, basically just pop off. You know, that's kind of something that we've seen a lot, especially on that Veil of FNAF, you know, from RAISY, and then also in the set versus Nasva. The capacity that these players have to just kind of turn it on and absolutely just prevent any sort of opposition from appearing is absolutely insane. Wonderful peeker there from RAISY. BaSe doing a little bit of self-damage with the rocket, I believe, too, and it's adding up, and, you know, BaSe couldn't charge that, and BaSe couldn't challenge the Heavy, and as a result, dies and RAISY's able to get the Mega.
I think it was a bit too predictable of a getaway from BaSe right there. Going for those double bubbles, that's RAISY is going to read that, knows exactly how you want to approach this. Setting up here that small armor that both players know is going to spawn. Both players, was a really good play by RAISY.
Super dangerous. BaSe running around, peeking that angle with less than 90 health, you know. Super high, really good reaction times from him, great shooting, and that's really what you kind of have to see in addition to the good decision making, you know. Position also didn't do super well for Nasva, but RAISY faring much better on the LG.
I think a big part of that was just that BaSe doesn't have rockets yet. Probably could have gone very differently if BaSe actually had the rockets to fire down from above. But instead he kind of awkwardly had to go for an LG fight, whereas RAISY of course was going to get that damage boost, or rather that health boost from the Mega. So not the best position for BaSe to be in with an incomplete arsenal. And these were some good plays from RAISY. I think BaSe perhaps a bit too greedy to try and pick up one of those items, a Heavy at least. Exposing himself to too much damage with no real escape route available to him. And all RAISY needs is one good shot. A rail or a nice chunky rocket can completely change everything for him. Because BaSe is playing as a light champion. So RAISY has that default stack advantage. Plus, a rail, yes, it's 90 damage no matter who you hit, but that 90 hurts so much more on a light champion than it does on, say, a Heavy or even a medium. So one single rail can basically cripple BaSe before many of these fights.
Yeah, you know, As
bit
a medium
careful.
champion spawning with about 175 health, 2 rails is going to kill you. But for those lights, it takes a lot more to stack up above that 90 threshold. It takes, like just a single bubble or a single piece of armor for a medium champion to be able to recover and get out of that 90 damage red zone, for lack of a better term. But with these light characters, as you're saying, it's super easy to just take extra damage, take that rail, and have it just cripple you for so much longer. As RAISY's kind of demonstrating here, not necessarily just with the rail, but like applying a bit of pressure, dealing a bit of damage off spawn, and pressuring BaSe to basically have to make a bad decision and then forcing him out somewhere. BaSe calling GG's at just about 6 minutes. We'll be going to map 3.
It's an early one. Indeed, 6.5 minutes. BaSe calling GG, quite unexpected. I think that BaSe just played it a little carelessly, right? He started off so controlled, so patient, very disciplined game, got that 1 frag lead, 2-1 over RAISY, but then RAISY started really getting more into the groove of things, and I feel like BaSe was just too greedy to challenge for items that he had no business being on, right? He would show up on Mega time and time again. Didn't hurt him that much, but he got very little benefit out of it either. And more often than not, RAISY somehow dealt more damage from the low ground than he did from the high ground. And that's just... Obi-Wan would absolutely have his mind blown over something like that. And I think that BaSe, yeah, then he shows up towards heavy. Out of control, outstacked, down below, rockets raining from above, doesn't have an exit route available to him. That's just how you throw away a lead. That's just how you give your opponent 3 frags. And BaSe too aggressive in some of these situations. I think just too eager to challenge for major items off spawn instead of just playing, the general step-by-step game, following the default blueprint to get back into control. You spawn, you avoid your opponent, you just go for the railgun, the rockets, the lightning gun, try to get yourself a small armor just to bring that base stack, up a little bit higher and get to that normal fighting shape, and then try to use that railgun to your advantage, especially since you're the faster champion with the smaller hitbox. You want to make good use of that. Finally, force out an opening, land 1 or 2 good rails, and then you dive in on an item. Then you take a stand before a major spawns, not just showing up off spawn with nothing but the rockets. And I think that BaSe was kind of hoping for something more to come out of these fights, but it just didn't. And then he dropped 1 too many frags in a row, and before you know it, he decides that, well, yeah, this isn't doable anymore. I'm going to call GG. I'm going to save my energy for the next series because it is a tight game right now. 1-1. First map, BaSe has lost all day. So let's see how this continues. This next map is going to be Deep Embrace, and it will decide the outcome of this series. RAISY will be running the Ranger, and BaSe is playing Athena.
This is our first time with Deep Embrace on stream so far today, and also RAISY's second map 3 on stream. So this will be super exciting to see. Deep Embrace, one of my favorite maps personally. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. And the quick lower bracket updates, the other thing I meant to say, is actually Dramas 2-0'd CNZ. Was
okay.
Great showing from him, so he will go on to play the winner of Nasva and Zanaku, which will be up on the winner of that. Up next.
Both items pretty much perfectly in sync. Cutesy little rocket jump from RAISY. If he didn't have the orb available, he would have sent himself spiraling off the map into the cold, wet depths of Deep Embrace. But of course, it was all calculated. He knows exactly the limits that he can push these champions to. Very patient, reserved start. Less than 100 damage dealt by both of these players combined in the first minute. Not something you see every day.
Yeah, both players playing super slow, super heavy on that rail game. They both have it, which is super important. Because a lot of people, are able to deny that rail super effectively. But both players here starting out and being able to grab it quickly means that, it slows down a lot. And, the risk of, chaining multiple frags is still there. But, because you have the rail, you have the ability to kind of choose safer engagements off the spawn and, maybe spare yourself from the deep embrace of death. BaSe. Going in a little aggressively. What? RAISY set up in a good position, going to miss that jump. His circle jump's going to lead him into the wall, meaning actually he won't be able to get the orb teleport and have a chance of stealing both items, which is just a shame because, you know, you could definitely see that as something that might work out really, really well for him because BaSe would presume he'd be able to get that for free and kind of catch him with his guard down more or less, but looks like this engagement will be able to do that, catching BaSe down and up 1-0 for RAISY.
Athena is one of the most risky champions to play. Very high risk, also very high rewards, but it's not the kind of champion that you see BaSe run all that often, so he's got to be careful. We've seen what can happen when BaSe puts himself in a bad situation, right? On the previous map, it's basically how he lost. Too aggressive, and then finding himself in a bad spot with no way out and being outdamaged by his opponent, and that's something that can very easily happen when you're playing Athena. So BaSe, he's got to be extremely careful right now. He doesn't put himself in a tough spot between a rock and a hard place. RAISY's already gotten one frag. Can he find another? Still, there is so much respect between these players right now. They are playing such a patient strategy. No one going all in, no one really just extending massively. Kind of leaving a lot of distance in between the two of them and just contenting themselves with picking up their own weapons. Rather their items at this point, since they both have completed the arsenal. Here we go, finally getting a solid engagement around the center area of the map. BaSe's LG is looking solid, but he's lacking the stack. Good use of the grapple hook right there. Really needed that orb to stay alive.
That rail knocking him below that 90 damage threshold. The armor's not going to be up for a little while, so, you know, if you're RAISY, you're going to figure out how to get that little bit of extra stack right there. And BaSe won't be able to get there in time, so RAISY will be able to get up to the high ground, but is going to be forced to fight 89 health. 2 less than you need to survive that rail, and, you know, if you're RAISY, you just kind of have to really worry about how to not basically get picked off here, because, you know, it could spiral out of control. BaSe has a reasonable stack, and, you know, if you drop that frag on trade, you're going to be in a really bad position.
Can't catch me now.
Those rails won't connect. This is not the scoreline that I would have expected for a Ranger versus Athena fight, especially not after how those previous 2 games have been going, because that was a lot of aggression, constant pressure being applied by both of these players, but this time around they are taking an extremely careful and passive approach to this matchup. That I think that might change now. There's no small armors immediately available to BaSe. And RAISY knows that he can apply pressure, and indeed that is what he does. Yep, perfectly executed by RAISY. Waited for just the right moment when there were no small armors for BaSe to fall back on. And then he lands that one opening rail and he's like, that's it. This is my cue. Now I am going to hold you accountable for challenging me here. And getting himself the second frag of this map.
Oh, wow.
Everything is good to go.
Wonderful.
Super shotgun falls short.
Wonderful corner play leading to that 3rd frag there for RAISY. BaSe, you know, really kind of needs to figure out a way back into this game because this... Oh, that shotgun is gonna... Master's Curse is gonna be enough to get 1 frag, but how far he leads it could be up for grabs. He does not have a rail. He only has rockets, and he doesn't have too much stack here, especially as a light champion. You know, he has the position. Oh, exactly what you need if you're BaSe.
Juicy. Juicy indeed, and that will help him a lot. And now RAISY, instead of going for Mega right away, he goes up the bounce pad. I don't think he was entirely aware that Mega was about to spawn. I think it spawned like just as he walked onto the bounce pad.
What?
And that is a freebie for BaSe.
Deep Embrace being Deep Embrace is tied up now too, and, you know, could definitely go in BaSe's favor. I could see BaSe taking the set if need be. But,
Oh, yeah.
you know, 4 more minutes of presumably quite slow play to come as, you know, they're tied back up and neither player is incentivized being super aggressive. But of course, as I say that, BaSe going for a wonderful attempt at a frag there. Is he going to be able to secure the Mega, but RAISY should be safe and sound.
Small armor is going to help RAISY out, and oh no, BaSe goes up the bounce pad at the wrong time. Bounce pads haven't been either of these players' friends It's not on this map.
That's just
But it will be
how Dad
BaSe to
said
clean
we
up the
check
next
that,
kill.
please.
If he plays his cards right, he actually can get up full rotation right now. I love the drop down from BaSe, knowing very well that those 2 health bubbles are going to be up. Realizing that RAISY just doesn't have the armor to play with. And has to give up solid footing and any sort of shot that he had at taking away the Mega. Nice little rocket jump there as well by BaSe. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the angle right, but did deny the small armor. Of course, entirely calculated, knowing that the heavy is about to spawn, so he can get both of them. Now he just wants to slowly choke RAISY out, deny every single resource available. I think BaSe needs to know that RAISY wants to go for that small armor down below. And that's exactly what RAISY did. Would have expected BaSe to be a little quicker on the punish there, because that's really the only armor that BaSe, or that RAISY rather, has had access to in these past 2 or 3 minutes now. But that was a nice little rail. Couldn't even see RAISY on BaSe's point of view yet. Just the tip of his head must have been all it took. Good shot from RAISY. A few more of those, or one blind direct rocket around the corner and tied up once again. And this is a bad spot for BaSe right now. 15 seconds before the heavy spawns. All he's got is the rocket to work with. Nice. Solid
RAISY has
direct
timing,
of
too.
the teleporter.
If it bleeds, I can kill it.
Not enough, unfortunately. Really good opening, but I love how RAISY just rocket jumped around it. And now everything is starting to crumble for BaSe. It's starting to fall apart. 7 points of health. RAISY is going to find that one too. BaSe a little too greedy. He saw the Mega.
Me now.
A lifeline to be sure, but not if you can't make it onto it on time. And I think that RAISY with that super shotgun blast will be sealing the deal. Don't really see an opportunity for BaSe to get back into this, especially after that one. If he had taken away the heavy, that would have been something else. With the heavy, he would have won that LG fight. Would have been much closer than it was right now. But what, 4 frags in a minute? I know this is Deep Embrace that we're talking about, but BaSe just doesn't have the control of the items that he needs. Doesn't have the railgun, still lacking key weapons. And then of course RAISY spawns near the Mega, and BaSe is unable to stop him from picking it up. So that means that RAISY claws his way back